and she said something to me that didn't make any sense, but honestly it has worked so well. Hi, I'm Ree from mummyof4.com. Welcome back to my channel. Today I'm sharing 7 strategies to help parents of children with autism, but to be honest, these strategies can be used for any child, whether they are on the spectrum or neurotypical, which is just basically the word for anyone that isn't on the spectrum and doesn't have autism. To give you a little bit of background before we dive into the strategies, I have 4 children, 2 of which have been diagnosed with autism. And when my daughter, who is my second child to be diagnosed with autism, was diagnosed, it was pointed out by several people that had I not been parenting her the same way I was parenting my child who was already diagnosed with autism and not already been implementing these strategies, then she wouldn't have been as calm and as happy as she actually was. So really implementing these strategies, a lot of them are just good parenting sense. So hopefully these will help whether you have a child on the spectrum or not. The first one is to use a visual timetable. Now children generally thrive on routine, but children with autism, as a rule, really need it that little bit more. And to be able to see what is going to be happening during the day in a visual way, it can really help those children. Obviously, as children get a little bit older and they can read, you can write out their timetable. Now, if you watched any of my homeschooling videos when we were doing all that back in 2020 and we were in the midst of it, and yes, a little bit again at the beginning of 2021, then we had a very structured day and a very structured timetable as to what we were going to be doing when. Now, some people thought this was a little bit extra, but to be honest, the reason I did it is because I knew my children thrived on routine, and being able to not just have that routine, but to be able to see what was coming next, it really helped them. For small children, you can use pictures. These could be little clip art pictures you find from the internet. You can buy kits of these visual timetable kits where you can physically move and stick the pictures, or you can use actual photographs and make your own. There are even some apps for creating visual timetables. So if you've got a child that you feel thrives on routine, have a look at using visual timetables so that they can see what they've got coming up that they can look forward to, what they've got coming up that may be a bit more challenging, but they can be prepared for. The next strategy is to use a countdown to the end of an activity. Any child interrupted in the middle of playing, doing something exciting that they want to be doing, suddenly being told to stop and have to do something else, they're probably going to not be very pleased about that. If, however, you give them a countdown to how long you've got left until you've got to tidy up or leave playing or go to bed or have a bath, or whatever it might be that they're perhaps going to be less keen on doing than the thing they're doing at the moment, like playing, then they are far more likely to take this transition calmly if they know that it's coming, they've got that countdown. A time timer is ideal for children that have no concept of actually being able to tell the time, because they just know how long they've got left by looking at the dial and how much red is left before it disappears. You could use the hourglass timers that you can turn over. They've got very fixed amounts of time on those. You could use those. You could use a countdown timer on an iPad or something, some other tablet, if you have one of those and your children respond well to that. But give your children a visual countdown to the end of an activity and see if you find those transitions easier. Try using first this, then that. So especially if it's something that your children really want to do and perhaps are nagging to do, or something they're not so keen on doing, then they'll know, a bit like back to our visual timetable, first we're going to eat our dinner, then we're going to go to the park, or first we're going to have a bath, maybe you're not so keen on that, but then we're going to have a story. And having these things to work towards, something perhaps they're not so keen on followed by a treat, or something they are going to be able to enjoy, but the awareness of something a bit more challenging coming up can really help children both on and off the spectrum. The next one I could not get my head around, but when William was diagnosed with autism, we had a conversation with an absolutely brilliant speech and language therapist who was involved with his diagnosis, and she said something to me that didn't make any sense, but honestly it has worked so well. And she told me not to ask him any questions. So at the time I was a bit like, what? So how am I supposed to speak to him then? And it didn't mean no questions at all. And And I was given the example of the hand. So for every question, I had to make 4 statements. And the reason for this is because at the time he wasn't engaging in a lot of conversation, and I needed to model the kind of speech I expected him to give back to me in conversation. And I'm sure you can understand this. Did you have a good day in school? What was this for lunch? When you bombard your children with questions like that, you generally don't get very far with them. If, however, you just present them with information, whether they choose to respond or not, at least you're modelling the language that you would like them to respond with when they choose to. So for example, what did you have for lunch might be met with, dunno. However, I had a ham sandwich for lunch may prompt them to respond with, I had sausage and potatoes for lunch, if that's what they had for school dinners. You're modelling the sentence structure, the kind of language you'd expect them to use, and believe it or not, it really does work. So I went wholeheartedly into this must not ask him questions thing as soon as it was suggested. My husband, it took him a little while to get used to it, and I had a lot of stop asking him questions to have to say in the background. But as soon as we stopped asking the questions and led with more statements and less questions, his speech improved so much. The next strategy is to offer 2 alternatives rather than a full choice. So, would you like this one or this one? Offering an A or a B alternative rather than a whole world of possibilities means you're far more likely to get a response out of your child. So rather than what would you like to do today, saying would you like to go to the shops or the park? What would you like for dinner becomes would you like pasta or pizza? Giving these limited choices makes decision making far more simple. It's modelling the language you expect them to use again, so they're feeling like they've got some control over the decisions they're making without being overwhelmed by options. You can also use this as a kind of a lesser of 2 evils kind of thing, so maybe they're not fussed on potatoes, but they really, really hate pasta. So if you offer them pasta or potatoes, then perhaps they will take the lesser of 2 evils. Give it a try and let me know how it goes. The next one is, again, having to kind of rewire your brain with how you speak to your children, but it's telling them what to do rather than what not to do. So for example, if I say to you, don't think of a pink elephant. Do not think of a pink elephant. Do not think of a giant pink elephant filling up the room. Just, it's huge. There's an elephant, it's pink, it's filling your living room. You are thinking of a pink elephant right now, aren't you? Because your brain does not hear the don't, it just hears the thing. So don't spill the drink, don't spill the drink, don't spill the drink, don't spill the drink. Just all your child is hearing is spill the drink, and they're more likely for that to happen because that's what they're focusing on. Don't hit becomes kind hands, be gentle. Don't spill the drink becomes keep the drink in the cup. Don't run in the road, it becomes stay on the pavement. Just using this positive approach to speaking, especially when you're trying to give your children instructions, is far more likely to get you where you want to be. Think back to the Mary Poppins song, because you all know I love Julie Andrews, but she's singing to the children, stay awake, don't rest your head, don't lie down upon your bed. They don't hear the don'ts, they just hear it as a lullaby and they fall asleep. The next strategy is actually to cut back on what you're saying a little bit. If you think of speaking to your young children or your children with autism almost as if they're having to learn a brand new language. If you go to a foreign country, perhaps you don't speak French, and someone, a native French speaker, speaks at you and all you hear is with the odd words sprinkled in here and there. You have almost no understanding with your barely a GCSE in French, and you just don't know what they're saying, and you end up really startled, not knowing what to do, and not really understanding the whole point of the conversation. Well, your young children, perhaps your children with autism, will be in this kind of position. So by using more basic language, again, think of you trying to learn a new language. If someone speaks to you in a language you have a basic understanding of, but in basic terms that you can understand without all the fluffy, flouncy, descriptive words sprinkled in there, they are far more likely to get through to you. And when you make your language a little more basic and a little less flouncy when speaking to your children and cut out all the unnecessary words and just get to the point, they're far more likely to understand your instructions and to cooperate. So which of these strategies do you use already with your children, and which are you going to try out? Let me know in the comments. Thank you so much for watching. If you have enjoyed this video, please make sure you give it a thumbs up and subscribe for more videos every Tuesday, Thursday and Sunday at 7 p.m. If you've got any more specific questions about autism you'd like me to answer in future videos, please do let me know in the comments and I shall put together those videos for you guys. More videos on the screen, pick one, see you over there. Mwah. Bye!